And then you built that, and that's why it's the best return on investment, because
Right.
then they're coming back to you. But you spent all that money into this lead side, and they're just gigging you over and over. Hey, let's call Bob. He bled last time we stuck him. You think he'll bleed again? He might. Put him on the callback queue. See if we can get him again. Hey there, guys. It is Nolan and Jason with Roofing Webmasters.
Hey, hey.
We thought we'd go over something today. Today, we're going to go over what types of leads for roofers are best. And, you know, I deal with this all the time. And, of course, we're a full digital marketing agency, so we go over all of this. But it kind of depends on where somebody starts in their business and what you're doing. So if you're one guy in a truck compared to a large company that's matured and really taking advantage of any marketing they can do. So I know, you know, I'm going to start with the one on the bottom of the list is door knocking. So I know that a lot of you guys,
The traditional way.
yeah, and it's fine. I would never knock any one particular type of marketing because we're a
As
marketing.
long as it works.
We're a
yeah.
marketing company, right? So yeah, so somebody says, hey, do you like this or do you like that? And it's like, well, it depends on what makes the most money. I don't like it when I see you know, people will call up here and they're a storm chaser. And I think after a certain period of time, it's just kind of a cruddy life if you don't have any stability. So if you're running
Right.
from one place to the next, it's fine in your 20s and 30s, but by the time you're our age, yeah, you don't want to
do that anymore.
You don't want to do that anymore. And so you might, I'll tell you, you might do it a little bit. People, you know, I don't.
I mean, we've had clients that do.
I don't. Hey, I have a ton of respect for door knockers, by the way, because I used to own a home security company, and I think between roofing and home security is the two most door knock things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe you know, maybe religion, right? That's up there.
Yeah, that's
Up there too. Maybe more roofers than Jesus, though. I don't know. So yeah, especially if hail.
That's
hits.
our new tagline for the company: more roofers than
Tell you
Jesus.
what, they ought to send in. You know, why not send in people for Jesus right after hail hits? So, you know, anyway, something to think
A little
about.
sacrilege today.
So I have tons of respect for the door knockers. I really, really do because, gosh, it was something I couldn't do well for myself in home security. So if you're a door knocking guy, well, more power to you. But a lot of guys call, and I can watch them through the years. We've been doing this for 8 years now, and they'll call up and you can hear it in their voice. They're like, gosh, I'd love to have something stable in one
Yeah.
town. But again, door knocking, they just go back to it because it just flat out works, you know. Especially if they know how to do it. There's some guys that are just juggernauts at this. So door knocking's okay, but did you know, I'll give a reference point on door knocking. Did you know how much it costs you to door knock, hire a manager, pay for that person? People do these 10-50-50s, right? Where you've got, in case you're not from Texas or some of these states where it's not licensed and it's really competitive for sales,
Yeah.
that's like there's a $10,000 roof, and then they'll take 10% off the top for overhead. I air quote overhead because that's bull crap that it's 10%. You know it costs more than 10% to run your business. But the competition's so stiff for the sales that they'll do a 10-50-50, and now there's let's say it's 30% profit.
Yeah.
And so it's a $10,000 roof. They took 10% off the top, so there's $3,000 after material and labor. There's $3,000 they take off $1,000 for expenses, and then they split the rest of it with the salesperson, the door knocker.
Yeah.
And so I think that's crazy, but then again, if I owned a roofing business, I might do it. Now, if you're in California and you're watching this, you'd be like, what? That's insane, man. We wouldn't pay them more than 15, 20, 25%. But that's because you're in a regulated state, and I've actually talked to roofers that say they love California because of that. Because there's hardly
Because
anybody
they don't
there.
have to pay the door knocker as much.
They don't have to pay the salesperson as much because there's not roofers crawling all over each other for the limited resources of the salesperson.
Gotcha. Okay.
So, yeah, it's if you're in California, you're like, Nolan, that's crazy. Well, not in Texas, it's not crazy, and not in a bunch of other states.
It's the Wild West out here.
The point being, if you're a door knocker, I want you to think about this for a second. You might even have a van. You put ads in ZipRecruiter or Craigslist. You paid for salespeople. It took up your own time. You have hired a non-owned auto and all sorts of other things revolving around door knocking. Now, I would tell you that for a proper organic effort, which is the one on top of my list, you could actually have that done way cheaper than just managing a group of door knockers, or even
Right.
one team, one van full of people if you rolled into town like that.
Right.
And so for me, when I look at a door knocker, I'm like, man, why aren't they optimizing online? Why are you not going for this part of it? And if you're not door knocking and this doesn't pertain to you, it's just a good point. We're going to go over all the stuff. So let's go over what is organic. Organic is where you show up from design, content, coding, reviews, all that stuff, right?
Proper management of your online presence in every channel.
So Google grades everything. So that as a digital marketing company, it's a large hunk of what we do. We also do other stuff, but let's talk about door knocking on organic. Okay, so I'll give you a method of doing this for door knocking or for hailstorms. So they're like, Nolan, we don't door knock, but we love hail, right?
Right.
And so, okay, so
everybody loves hail.
if you're organic, people are going to look online. They don't just respond to door knockers. In fact, I'd argue that there might be problems coming up for door knocking a decade from now. Do you think people are still going to be answering the doors much?
People already don't answer the door.
I've got a little camera on my
Yeah.
on my doorbell, and
I mean, when I was a kid, which was a hell of a long time ago, people knocked on the door. My mom or dad got up and
answer the
answered,
door.
or hollered at me or my brother or my sister to do it. And there was no nobody was suspicious, and nobody was like, who is that?
I
or
can
whatever.
tell you from talking to guys that are already having
Yeah.
problems with
But
this.
now,
Yeah,
I mean,
so-
my wife is a little younger than me, and when someone knocks on the door,
She'll
like
answer
3 in
the
the
door.
afternoon, it's not
Yeah.
like nighttime or anything, and she'll answer it, but she gets all like, well, who is that knocking on the door? Like it's a home invasion.
So this was a light hail year overall.
Yeah.
And it hailed here in North Texas where we are. It was level 5 on hail trace, and they flooded into town because everybody's starving.
Yeah.
All the door knockers were starving. Now, let me get on to something else for you guys though. On the organic, if you're optimized, well, your phone rings off the hook. If there's a hurricane, wind damage, water damage, if there's hail damage, then okay, so I'm talking back to anybody who's not a door knocker and all the door knockers.
Right.
So wouldn't you like to be optimized? Now here's the problem. You'll end up having a hailstorm hit an area like 2016 San Antonio hailstorm, and 80% of the roofs get redone. If you're there, you're like, hey, Nolan, it sounds fine. Now I'll tell you something. We have a client that did 700 plus roofs that year, and the year before had done less than 100. But we are like 30 or 40 or something, and then he went to like over 700 in the hailstorm of 2016, worst monetary damage hailstorm in San Antonio history.
Right.
The
I
next
think all
year,
of South Texas.
maybe,
Yeah.
yeah. The next year, I think if you dial forward a decade, it's just stuff costs so much more. You know,
Yeah.
we had a worse one in North Texas one time.
Yeah.
But anyway, worst monetary damage. And the next year he did 300, and the next year they're done. There's 80%.
Yeah,
of
all the
roofs
damage
got-
has been
It's all been
fixed.
done, and these
Yeah.
guys all know what I'm talking about. So they're
Right.
like, "Well, I know, Nolan. That's why I go door knock and chase some storms." And I'm like, "Hey, I understand." That guy's still doing 150 roofs because he was only doing like 30, 40. He's still doing 150. The 20-25% of roofs that are left there without any major hail the following years, he's still getting some business. So for one thing, you still get business after the hail's gone. Work a couple of markets is my point there. So
Right.
you can work. A lot of guys and a lot of you do this. So you'll say, "Oh, I'm going to work North Carolina and Indianapolis," or "I'm going to work." They'll pick 2 areas. A lot of guys will pick a destination they like to
Yeah.
vacation at, like Colorado. A lot of you guys will go there and stay, or you'll be Texas, Colorado, or Texas, Florida, because you like Florida, and it has bunches of problems too. So those are some ways to get the leads. The organic will have the phone ringing off the hook. It can ring dozens of times per day when there's hail if you're found. Then you don't have to door knock your own area, and then you could go in another one. I don't have any issue with door knocking. I just think it's a smart play to do that, and then you're not constantly having to uproot. And if you work at several different markets in like a certain geographic area and actually have physical locations that are optimized, this is a great tactic and way to look at it, right?
Right.
So you go into one area and go, "No, I don't want you starving." You go into San Antonio and you clean house one year, and then you starve for 5 years before it hails again.
Right.
People doing that out of Wichita, Kansas, and there's lots of places where this happens. Pay per click That's where you're paying for the clicks, right?
Right. Google AdWords.
People ask me, and it's loaded, Nolan, should I do this? Should I do that? Should I do the other? And you remember right when it started, I said, well, I'd do everything if I could.
Do everything that works.
Yeah. So is pay-per-click maybe more expensive once you're than organic? Yeah, probably, but it's a healthy part of an overall campaign.
Right.
So if you're door knocking, or if the door knockers move in after a hailstorm, pay-per-click can go up, but I still like it.
Yeah.
You know. So organic, I could go off on organic and go into that, guys, but that's showing up on your organic keyword rankings, map placement, and reviews, which we're going to talk about. But that is a category where it is directly a result of the skilled work that we do. Right. So whether you show up in the map, I had a guy just last night I was talking to, and I'll give you a few things on organic mapping. He said that there's one he was in a town of 15,000. One guy that had no website was in the top 3. And I said, he said, how do they show up? And I said, we could have asked like 20 different questions and I would have given a similar answer to it. So the same question would say, I have 40 reviews. I'm the second most reviewed person in my market, except I don't show up in the top 3. It's because out of all the little skilled things we do, you're going to get graded for it. The guy with no website probably had an old Google account, worked in Google My Business, had some reviews, and maybe even had some links coming into it. You know,
Right.
Stuff was like he had linked that Google page around. The other guy was missing all this, all these sorts of things. Once we
And in a town of only 15,000 people,
that can happen.
yeah, when you have these small markets, that kind of weird stuff that doesn't seem to make
Doesn't
sense.
happen in big
we
towns.
see it happen, but you go into a major market.
Major market,
You
it
see that
doesn't
go
matter.
away.
Yeah, once all the little details get done well enough, that new client will jump into top 3 rankings. But
Right.
organic is a compilation of lots of stuff up front, well tended to, worked on all the time, from domain authority to reviews to Google My Business to citations and branding and of course content design and code base. So
I'd like to make the point that things like door knocking and pay-per-click also, they're essentially instant. When you go door knocking, you're there. When people need the service, you're at the door. You're talking to them right in their face, and you try to get service. Pay-per-click is when they're searching for you, but you've paid to be at the top of the result, and that's why it's more expensive, because you're paying for the top spot. Organic is an ongoing effort, and it's what sustains you between things like hailstorms and helps you get stuff right after a hailstorm.
And typically is the least expensive.
Yeah,
because of the fact that
it's an ongoing effort. It's something you do all the time. You don't wait until a hailstorm to start your organic effort. You got your organic effort going all the time.
So we get that question a lot.
Yeah, so that you're already at the top.
I'm moving
when the
into North
hailstorm
Carolina
hits.
for the storm. I'm going into Houston for the hurricane. I
Yeah.
need well, I'm sorry, it's too late to do the organic. So
Yeah.
once you're one of the
And we'll be
juggernauts-
straight with you and tell you that.
Yeah, we will. I mean, you can go after paid ads, you can go after Google, you can go after Facebook. There's things you can do, but and I wanted to rate these like door knocking leads an excellent lead, organic leads an excellent lead, pay-per-click leads an excellent lead. So that was one of these things. What types of roofing leads for roofers are best? That's the title of the show. So here, the door knocking leads is an A+. Hard to do. A little bit of a lifestyle issue potentially, but a great lead once you get it.
Yeah.
It can be tough competition. And when people rolled into North Texas this year, people had like 10, 20 cards on the door.
Yeah.
They were bumping into each other on the streets. An organic lead, the reason it's an excellent lead is because they're going to your brand. They're going, and if you've never had an organic lead, guys, they go to your brand, they go to your webpage, they go to your Google account, they're buying into you. They are not on a shopping platform. Even PPC is a shopping platform, but it's a pretty darn good lead.
Yeah.
But if they're on Google and they're clicking ads, and it may take 10 clicks to get a call off of that because they're clicking and they're looking, they're clicking, they're looking. They're in the shopping mode, and it slightly degrades the quality of the lead.
Yeah.
Because they're going to call somebody else more than likely. If they're looking up keyword terms, they're looking for somebody, and they're like, oh, I don't want to go shopping. They're like, oh, I love Bob's Roofing here.
Yeah.
I feel comfortable. He's got a great website, great logo, lots of good content. We're seeing all these reviews. That's a great lead because they're calling you direct.
Not only that, but on the organic lead especially, they're calling you, and if your marketing agency has done their job right, which if we're your marketing agency, we do, that client, because they've seen your branding and they've got information there, they're partially pre-sold.
Yeah.
Because
It's
they've seen your web presence, they've looked you over, and they've already.
So let's compare it. Yeah. So if they're on, I'm not going to mention any of these companies' names, but let's compare to a lead site. So let's do one of the lead sites. Well, some of them will sell the lead to multiple parties. That's rough already.
If your lead is cheap, if your first thought when they offer you a lead, wow, that's cheap. What that means is you and 10 other guys got it.
Yeah, most of these guys know it, though,
Yeah,
by the way.
yeah.
So most of you guys, I talk to you guys all the time. A lot of roofers are my friends. They know. They're watching this to try to figure out some better method. I can just tell you that organic, PPC, door knocking, these are all direct. These people are dealing with you directly. You know, it's like, hey, there they are. You know, if it's a lead site and they sell it to multiple people, they don't sell it. They sell it to 5. You know,
Okay.
three, 4, 5. But it's still kind of rough. And on top of that, they had no reason to do business with you only. They're calling the ABC lead site. Again, I don't want to mention them all because most people don't like these leads because they're sold off. And even if they're not selling the lead off, they still don't like them that well because they send them any junk. The system to send it to them is automated, so sometimes it's not even a lead, and then they're washy because they're popping and selling around. So it's important, and I wish we'd gotten this a little earlier in this to this point, but these are the differences between a great quality lead and one that just kind of stinks. You know, that makes it hard.
I believe we had a client a few months ago that he was using one of those services. Again, no names.
Yeah.
That if the call was over a minute 30 seconds,
became
it was
a
a lead.
Yeah.
And it could be a garbage call that
I think it was
not-
30 seconds actually.
Was it 30
yeah,
seconds?
I think it was 30
Wow,
seconds.
that's bad.
Yeah, so if the phone rang and it was over 30 seconds, but I'm talking about these big name brand companies.
Yeah.
So the big name brand company leads, they'll have an algorithm and they'll charge you for them, and then they won't even give them their money back, by the way.
Yeah.
They'll be like, this wasn't even a lead, and they're sitting here having to talk to some goofball on the phone that works there that's paid and trained through their software to not give them their money back.
Right.
And so yeah, it become the lead site stuff. And again, let's make a clear distinction. They're not interested in your brand. They called off a bunch of people sitting up there. They might have slightly been interested because you had some referrals. That's the best thing. Some reviews. Reviews on there. So that's a great thing on there. But most of the time, they're just not bought into you much, and there's a problem with it. Let's go over to that one, referrals. So once you're paying for door knockers, pay-per-click, organic, or even lead sites, and you have clients, a referral's a great lead to have,
Absolutely.
right? So companies can build up massive referral bases from just the amount of marketing they do.
Yeah.
So over the course of time, and these people should be hit up and every once in a while and emailed and kept in a database and all that, but that's a great lead too. Reviews. I'm going to move on to reviews. So, referrals. I had referrals and repeat clients. I'll kind of put that. I kind of. It's not the same thing really. It's a repeat client. It's fantastic, great to have. And then if it's a repeat client, they're going to be your referral base, right?
Right.
So the repeat clients like you and refer out. So you end up having these referral partners and stuff, and obviously keep those people happy. The reviews themselves drive everything. So
Right.
whether it's organic or PPC or door knocking, I still can't believe that people go in and door knock with no website. I know. Listen, I know a lot of you guys sell them, and they don't, and you don't have a website, or the website still shows your old town. I mean, it's not difficult to put up a website and show locally, and then reviews can tie in, I guess, or at least a little bit. But if to have something up, yeah, you make sales, but yeah, you lose sales. You do lose sales. You might be busy and make sales, but why lose sales just for not having a website up? You know?
Yeah, you may feel like you're busy, but if you don't have at least a basic web presence, you're leaving money.
You're going to
on
lose.
the table.
You're going to leave money on the table. Yeah, I totally agree. You're going to definitely leave money on the table without getting a website for that area. Reviews help every single aspect. Doesn't matter. Helps the organic optimization go higher. Helps conversion when people get to the website. Helps the door knockers see them and get conversion. helps PPC and all of it. So reviews is a huge category. We integrate it to the websites fully. It shows in through a tab. We even give you a dashboard to put your client's cell phone and email number down so that you can immediately text and email them direct links to your Google and Facebook and BBB reviews and all that.
Right.
Other stuff, print advertising. I mean, I talked to a guy the other day out of Michigan. I doubt he'll watch this because he's so old school or ever would, but I won't mention his name anyway. He's out of Detroit area and had no website. No website.
Wow.
Did 300 to 400 repairs per year and hundreds of roof replacements as well. And is a cool guy. But when they sent out, they did the little slip inserts. They did 1.3 million. And he just was giving
They sent out 1.3 million?
No, every time they do it. They've been doing this for years.
Oh, wow.
And I guess the guy called, and I don't have these conversations much anymore. Like 7, 8 years ago, I'd call up and people would say, well, I guess it's time to get on, to digital and online. I know things are moving that way. And then the phone call became, they're always yellow page guys or something, right?
Yeah.
And the phone call became less and less common. And now it's crazy when I get one.
Yeah, no, it's like this guy
only
does paper. What?
We're thinking about it. We're thinking about getting online, and they had no website. And
it's 2018, guys. It's time to stop.
I can't knock him entirely though.
Yeah,
they had
he's
a successful
obviously
business. They were actually really successful, but it was starting not to work as well for them. So, for everybody else, that happened 5 years ago, though.
Well, the thing is, you might find an outlier like that it's still working for him, and part of that's because none of his competition's not doing that anymore.
So I don't even know what the math is on that, but if it was like a 10 cents it couldn't be that much. It just blows my mind to think about it. 1.3 million. How much could you pay per piece? 10 cents would be $130,000.
Yeah,
it's possible. It's
possible.
Yeah.
I mean, you could probably get below that. But.
So if he did a nickel or 3 cents, he's still paying like 40 grand.
You got to put it together. You got to print it, and then you got to distribute it.
It
would be hard to get it below it.
It wasn't the bigger one that you've heard of, but it was one of those mail insert pieces.
Okay.
And here's the interesting part about it, and the reason I threw some money down. If you guys know anything about print advertising, there's no way in hell he did it for less than 3 cents. 3.5 cents or something.
Extremely unlikely.
Yeah, so he did 1.35 million-ish. If you cut it to 10%, it's $135,000.
Yeah.
Cut that into the third again, and it's like 40. What is that? Like 45,000,
something like that,
43 or $44,000 for a mere fraction. In many cases, we're less than $1,000 a month still for a full-blown organic effort. He could have been the juggernaut in his market. He has no website, so now he's got to start from scratch.
If he took that budget and applied it to like a mixed approach,
he could have
organic,
PPC,
Facebook management, he could have owned Detroit. I'm not sure how much that's worth these days.
He does well. They do well. I don't knock those guys, man. You know what he does all winter long?
What?
He fishes, horseback rides, snowmobile rides, and they evidently own an old power company's lodge and or a corporate retreat and turned it into a lodge.
Wow.
So for about 4 months out of the year, they just play and take people around to hunt and fish. And pretty cool.
Pretty cool. That is pretty cool.
Pretty cool deal. But anyway, so
but for the same amount of money, he could just explode.
For almost no money of that, he could have just owned organic without anything else, and organic's kind of a prize, So. Gosh, all right. So the categories I'm going to go over. I had other radio, TV, billboards. I think if you've been in business a long time in a smaller market, I could see billboards and radio maybe.
Yeah.
You try to do it in Dallas, Fort Worth. Nope, nobody does it here. There's one guy that's doing it, but he's. I question the logic of it in a town of 10 to 12 million because there's a lot of people and a lot of billboards needed. I think it's an ego move. If you're in a smaller area that has 1 million or less, and there's only a couple of arteries through town, okay, I'm going to say maybe okay.
Yeah.
Because you could drive by, and it's like, oh, I know there's a guy like
the same people drive by the same thing.
There's a guy that I've heard about. I've never seen the billboards that does billboards out of Oklahoma City, I think, or maybe Tulsa. And he kind of owns that market, but that ain't no Dallas, Fort Worth, or Phoenix, or Los Angeles, or Houston. If you're in too big of a market, I'm gonna say your ego for the most part gets the better of you on a billboard. The guy that does that locally doesn't have enough for everybody to know who he is, and he backbones it off of hordes and hordes of door knockers. He's a door knocking master, and then I'm gonna say that most of those billboards are just ego boosting fluff that's a waste of money.
Right.
But if you're in a smaller market, I could see it. TV, I don't know anybody doing that. Radio.
To
radio
me, the
can go
big
with
problem
billboard.
with TV is, number one, it's expensive.
Yeah.
And number two,
How many media channels do we all have nowadays?
Yeah, there's that.
We're a media channel right now.
but if,
you know?
if you're paying for TV time, it's expensive just to pay for the TV time, and you've got to produce a commercial or whatever you're doing, and
You
to
want it to be
get
high
a
quality.
product, yeah, exactly. That's what I was getting to. Is you want to get production value that makes you look professional. That gets expensive real fast, and if it doesn't look professional, nobody's going to take
I
it
mean,
serious.
honestly, this marketing, if you're watching this all the way through to this point, you're not a guy on billboards typically for
Right.
radio. If a radio and billboard guy in a town of anywhere from 50,000 to 1 million maybe, but that guy's been going for years. That's a final step after all this other stuff's been done, because he's branding at that point.
Yeah.
And true branding. They throw around the word branding nowadays. You can brand inside your own social platform, but when you talk about Google branding and stuff, that's not real branding. That's Google feeling comfortable with you.
Yeah.
You're not branded. If you're billboard, TV, radio, and all that, then branding is when the average populace knows the name of your company.
Yeah,
right?
that's when someone says, "Do you
Oh,
know
I've
of a
heard of
roofer?
that.
I've heard of so and so."
I've heard
Yeah.
of Bob's Roofing. I see them going down the street, and they've got the dog on the billboard
Right.
that says roof, And so those sorts of things can make sense, but they're not for most people at an early stage, and may never be for you. And it can be part of it depending on the marketplace, in my opinion. I've done this a long, long time, and so it's imperative that you get the best return on your lead. What leads the best? Well, an organic, a pay-per-click, a door knocking, a referral, reviews, stuff like that, repeat clients. Those are the best leads to have happen. We can help you with hordes of these things, and then our organic and pay-per-click management, review integration, and then all the stuff that a digital marketing agency would do would help you get repeat clients and referrals. There's very few things on the list that we don't help you with, but you have print, radio, TV, billboards, and door knocking, and you can do all that too, and lead sites
Right.
as well, which I don't knock them.
Yeah.
Some guys use them.
Yeah, if it sounds like we're knocking anything, it's just we're saying one thing is more effective than another.
Some of the
You
guys,
should use anything effective.
the problem with, I'll tell you one thing for you, the lead sites, man, they started at like $200 for these sites back. It hasn't been that long, by the way. These weren't really rolling that well like 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, So some guy starts for a lead site for like $200, like 7 or 8 years ago. This is a pretty realistic example. And it goes to 400 and 600. Then the guy gets 10 reviews, 20 reviews, 300 reviews. The guy's up there and doing well, and it's his entire marketing budget. It's the lead site. And now they're up to 1,400, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000. And they're like, man, we don't want to lose you here, Bob, but we got other people wanting to pay to get higher. And there's no limit on it. It keeps going and going. Now you invested all your time and energy on the lead site, and instead of building your own brand, which I'm not going to say on Google, which there is value to that, by the way, it's just not the same thing as a billboard, radio, TV, full branding like Coca-Cola or something, right? But you're branded on Google now, and you built your own brand with your own reviews on Google, Bing, Apple Maps, Google Maps, Bing Maps, review integration, organic
Facebook
optimization.
recommendations.
Yes, all this stuff is going, and then you built that, and that's why it's the best return on investment, because
Right.
then they're coming back to you. But you spent all that money into this lead site, and they're just gigging you over and over. Hey, let's call Bob. He bled last time we stuck him. You think he'll bleed again? He might. Put him on the callback queue. See if we can get him again.
Yeah.
How's it going, Bob? We know you got two.
And
200
you
books,
watch the cost of that lead go up until all of a sudden your return on investment just keeps going down.
Yeah, I'm not saying that you shouldn't get it, because a lot of these guys have invested and have those reviews, but as they get them, this company they're not giving you like 5% cost of doing business increase for inflation, are they? You know, went from like $200 to $2,000, and they're yelling uncle and calling and doing stuff like watching this. I mean, I know every type of lead for this stuff. We know where to place you. We're month to month with our client base in almost every situation, and so I'm not going to put you in a lead that isn't the best return first, the next best return, and so on, so that when we get the client, we keep them, right?
Right.
We're looking to keep you happy, get you onboarded, and we're skilled. I mean, there's a big difference in getting into something that's a skilled situation and having some marketer call you. That
We like to say we keep our clients by being effective for our clients.
Yeah,
we don't lock you into contracts
results
or
and
agreements
merit
or
of,
anything like
of
that.
the results and high quality work.
Yeah.
High quality.
He said it better than me.
Our motto is every little detail of every little thing. It's
Right.
kind of our unofficial motto. So all those details shall and will get you what you want online. The hard part is picking the best company. There's so much propaganda out there, it's hard to pick them, but we're a great company. I don't have anything else for this one. Do you have
No, I
anything?
think we went over it.
Yeah. Well, thanks guys for listening. I hope this helps you with what leads are best for roofers. And of course, we'd love to hear from you. If you like this, depending on what format it is in, please like the video, like the audio, like the podcast, and we'll look forward to hearing from you.